Have you ever wondered what the struggle is of a minimum wage fast food worker? Well, today I'm going to answer that age-old question. What's going on, party people? How are you all doing? And today I am sharing secret stories from ex-McDonald's employees and sharing my own stories as an ex-McDonald's employee. But before we get any further, press subscribe, because for every subscriber we get, another teenager out in the world grows up way too fast after a Karen throws a cheeseburger at their face. So yeah, my last ever job before I became a full-time filmmaker was McDonald's. And boy, do I have some stories. And I checked my contract, the NDA is up, and I'm excited to share everything with you folks today. My general manager almost delivered a baby in the Playland bathroom. Now, I have a lot of questions here. I'm not here to judge pregnant women out there, but what is going through your mind? You know, you're 9 months pregnant, you know that this baby is coming. I don't know if it's pregnancy cravings that you need to go to McDonald's or something like that, and then your water breaks. But also, that would be like the last place that you would probably want a child, right? You know, for their sake and for your own sake. I'd be ordering an Uber so quick to the nearest hospital just so I don't have to deliver my baby at a McDonald's Playland bathroom. Chat, what's worse, being conceived in a McDonald's Playland bathroom or being born in a McDonald's Playland bathroom? I will say this is definitely some hood shit. I would call my kid Ronald after this whole debacle. It's only fitting. Actually, I think that's like legally binding when you enter McDonald's, and if you give birth there, you need to name that kid Ronald. No matter what the gender, that kid's name is Ronald. I wasn't there when it happened, but we got a delivery order for almost $700 worth of food. Man, I have a crazy story that relates to this. So I remember it was like a weekend night shift and I was almost finishing up. I think my shift finished at like midnight or something. And then out of the blue, out of nowhere, a charter bus shows up. And this bus is full. It's like 100 people in this motherfucker. They were coming from like the city, from like the clubs and stuff, and out into suburbs, and then they just pulled in. It was like a party or something like that. Regardless, we were ill-equipped for this, because at this point we were trying to wrap up for the day. I don't think our McDonald's was like 24 hours, and then 100 people walk in and I'm the only person working in the back. So then there's me, a teenager, sweating bullets, having to make hundreds of dollars worth of food and not getting paid overtime for it. But I will say the people were great sports, because they're all wasted. They understood there was only like 4 of us working in the entire store, so they gave us a break, all right? You know, shout out to them for being so generous. Customers got in a fight in the drive-thru because this lady cut the other lady off. The police and paramedics had to get involved. Man, you are messing up everyone's schedule at that point. You know, why are you guys getting in a fight in the drive-thru, okay? If you just chill out and let things pass, you're gonna get through the drive-thru line just fine. But now these kids working the drive-thru are gonna be sweating bullets, because that drive-thru line is gonna back up like crazy while they're waiting for the paramedics to come. Also, another really weird thing that I remember from the McDonald's I worked at was, I don't know if this is like true to McDonald's across North America, but in Australia, they time the amount of time that cars are in the drive-thru, right? And you have to order and give them the food within a certain window. And there's like a leaderboard on the screen of all the stores in like the state or something like that. And I remember one day, I think this was like a couple of months of me working there, everyone starts cheering and clapping because they got number 1 on the leaderboard. And I turned to myself and I said, bro, you need to get the out of here. You cannot be working here for any longer than you should. Look, I love a good speed run, but when it's like speed running meets capitalism, I don't like that. There's just something dystopian about it that I didn't like. Had 2 drunk idiots walk through the drive-thru, then complained that they weren't being served. Typical day. What do you expect these people to do? They're trying to be responsible adults and get in a car. I remember one time I was drinking with my friends and we wanted to go into like a Burger King, but the Burger King was shut, and the only thing that was available was a drive-thru, and there was a cab in the parking lot. We're like, hey man, we'll pay you to take us through the drive-thru just so we can order our food. Our second option was walking, because we're trying to be responsible adults here. You expect us to drink and drive to get the food that we need to sober up so we can drive some more? I don't think so. Store manager gets held at gunpoint as he's opening the store, forced to open the safe, gets locked in walk-in freezer as thief absconds? What is that? What? What is that word? Absconds? All right. Fucking PhD while working at McDonald's, are we? With $200. Store manager waits 10 minutes, climbs out of the loading hatch, goes back in the building, and calls the cops. Yeah, fun fact for all the people out there that want to rob a McDonald's. Don't do it. There's not much cash there. There's this crazy system involved, or at least the McDonald's that I worked at there was no more than only like a couple $100s worth of cash in the entire store. Okay, so not worth your time trying to rob a McDonald's. Okay, they have like capitalism all sorted out. Okay, they have figured everything out where the store managers and the owners line their pockets while we all suffer, including the people robbing the store. You took off with $200, but they're banking like $20,000 for the day. Actually, probably way more than that, man. You would be surprised with how much McDonald's makes. I think it's something like if you open a McDonald's, the average annual turnover is like a few $1,000,000 or something like that. Crazy numbers. I personally would say one of the worst part at working McDonald's was having to deal with crappy managers. The manager I had sucked. I think every manager at a fast food place has a god complex. I feel like they tried to get into police academy and failed and then became a store manager at a fast food joint. That's the only case that has to happen. Because I remember I was studying at the time and I couldn't be scheduled for certain like days or whatever. My manager did schedule me for one of these days. And I was like, oh, hey, sorry, I can't work because I have class. And she says, all right, well, you're going to have to call and get your shift covered then. And I'm like, why is that my responsibility? You're the fucking manager. So there I was as like a 19-year-old kid having to call up 14 and 15-year-olds to try and cover my shift. Man, that shit is humbling. Having to call people to cover your shift. I don't know. Just something about it. Maybe it's just the introvert in me. I hate having to do that because I feel like I'm just inconveniencing everybody else. A customer got stabbed in the face on my first shift. We closed and the police came. We then opened up 2 hours later like nothing ever happened. You see what I mean by they have capitalism figured out? Every scenario that they have that you could possibly think of happening at McDonald's, they have a solution for it. I remember when I worked at McDonald's, you actually had to do like these online course type things. I don't know. It's like these modules. I think it's like if you want to work up the ranks of working at McDonald's that you do them. And they probably have stuff like this in it. It's like, hey, do you ever have a customer getting stabbed in the face? Well, here's the protocol for that. Thank you for completing this module. You have been upgraded to manager of the back grill. Not the one I used to work at, but in Ottawa, 2 homeless people got into a fight in the lobby and one threw a baby raccoon at the other. I have never been more proud to be a Canadian resident hearing that. Oh my God. I have a lot to unpack here. So they just had a raccoon on them at all times. Like they just have it on their person. That in itself is a skill, which is super impressive. But you weaponize that against somebody else? Man, be fearful of that homeless person. They probably have like a whole army of raccoons. They do a little whistle. It's game over for you. If you have any crazy stories yourself from McDonald's, comment them down below because I love hearing these types of stories because it's something that you have to say that sounds made up, but it's not. I just remembered across the street from the McDonald's I worked at, there was like this rundown house. It was kind of like a hood house type thing. The people there would come in every single day or every second day, I think it was, and they would complain that the food was made poorly or wrong just to get free food. And they would not leave until they got free food. They had that hustle down pat. And my manager, she was just like, yep. They're just here all the time. You're better off just giving them the food because what are we going to do? Call the cops? Like, it's not worth it. So if you want to have no moral compass whatsoever and just yell at minimum wage workers to get your way, it does work sometimes. One of my coworkers brought a taser and had a guy test it out on him in the back. Man, this is definitely some coworker shit because you got to understand, man, when you're working at McDonald's, you don't care. All right? You don't care about the workplace. You're just there to flip the burgers and cash a check. Simple as that. So shit like this does not surprise me whatsoever. I used to skate to my McDonald's and I would just get bored sometimes if it was quiet and I would get my skateboard and just ride up and down like the back hallways of the store just because I could. And what are they going to do? Fire me? I don't think so. I just remembered like one of my first shifts at McDonald's. They didn't know where to place me, so they kind of like during your trial period, they get you to like work in different areas of the restaurant. And I was working at like the counters, taking people's orders. My first day, it was 4:20. So all these stoners were coming in and they could barely get out sentences trying to figure out what food that they wanted. And there I am sweating trying to figure out this really complex menu system. And then for obvious reasons, they put me in the back after that. Also, during this trial period that I had, one of the jobs that I had was I had to clean like the restaurant in case they needed me to do that. And I did it, and there was this other person who that was their job. And then she got mad defensive because she thought I was trying to steal her job. And I'm like, look, girl. You can have this area of the restaurant if you want. I don't care that. But it genuinely blew my mind that there are some people out there that like get a job at McDonald's and they're just like, I'm gonna work here until the day that I die. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that if that is your aspiration. But that is not my aspiration. A man threw a McChicken at me that was supposed to have cheese on it. I hit him in the face with a Big Mac. I wasn't fired, which was the wildest part. I love that. I want to know what your reaction time was. I'm wondering if you were standing like at the end where you packed your orders, and then as soon as you clocked it in the air, you just reached over and just grabbed it and then just threw it back right away. I need to know what that reaction time was. But that does kind of remind me of when I was like working in the back and like building the burgers and stuff. You sometimes, because it's like an open kitchen, you can sometimes like overhear a customer screaming because you didn't put enough ketchup on their cheeseburger. Yeah, people complain about the wildest shit at McDonald's, okay? And the amount of times where I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll remake your shit. And I remake it the sloppiest way possible. I throw that shit together and I don't slide it down the chute towards the front. I just like Kobe it down the front, okay? That's the only response that I have. I don't care about you. How the guy jumped through the window and take all the money and proceeded to make himself an iced coffee before leaving. This is impressive because this guy knew how to work the machines. This is an inside job, right? This is like some Ocean's 11 shit, but for McDonald's. I feel like this dude would have opened a register, would have seen there's only like $75 in there, and was like, damn, dude, that's not enough. And he's like, all right, iced coffee machine, that's worth like $3.50. That's adding to my tally. 2 crew members did it in the walk-in chiller. This is impressive, okay? I have heard of stories, especially when I was working at McDonald's, of like people like making out in the chiller, but to do it in the chiller is a whole other thing. How are you gonna get it up? It's like -20 in there. It's so cold in there, and you're somehow able to get it up. That's impressive. Me personally, I did no funny business in the chiller. I just went in there, got my shit, and got out because, again, I was 19. Most of the time, I'm scheduled on with like 15, 16-year-olds. It's just weird. It's just weird. I don't even want to talk to these kids, let alone try and make a move on them. But there is a stereotype of older dudes trying to get with younger kids at McDonald's, okay? It's a thing. I hope I don't get demonetized saying it, but it's somehow a thing, okay? I know people shit on like working at fast food, but I do think it is a good way to grow as a human because you learn how to interact with the wildest people. That and call centers, both places that I've worked at before, you learn so much. You have like a PhD speed run level of what it's like interacting with the most insane people day in, day out at those workplaces. Honestly, I think I'm just going to leave it there. I had a lot of fun with this. I worked at a whole bunch of other fast food places, so there are going to be a bunch of other videos coming out. Comment down below any crazy stories from any fast food place that you worked at, and if I worked there as well, I'm going to share in a future video. I'll also be commenting down below any other crazy stories that I might remember while I'm editing this video. Thanks for watching again, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.